more involved on the ground in East Africa, but still coffee trading, bringing coffee to the market, working with coffee roasters, but the whole supply chain, the whole value chain in fact. And during these 41 years, I have been able to provide for my family. But how? Hello. You cut me off, huh? You didn't want to hear that. I've been able to provide for my family. Like how? I've been able to provide for my family thanks to you, thanks to the coffee growers. Because all I was doing is moving that coffee from the country of production to the country of consumption, and making a living out of it. And so in 2008, when I went more into East African coffee producing countries where I engaged thousands of farmers, I realized that time had come for me to give back on my experience and to share with you, the coffee growers, because you full well know that as a farmer, you have to be resilient. You get the feeling that you make one step forward and the next season you make 2 steps backward. So you have to be extremely resilient to continue to grow what you're doing, whether it's coffee, whether it's cotton, cocoa. And I thought it was about time that I share my knowledge. We set up a company, which I did in 2021, whereby we want actually to pass on some of that experience to those who are working the harvest, those who are working the soils, the trees who harvest. And that's what we are about to show you in which way we can actually help. And I have another question for you. The colonialists told you or your forefathers that Northern was no good for perennial crops. They said grow cotton, because they had split the country in different areas. You do this, you do that. And they had absolutely zero interest that you understand how to grow coffee. So, under the current government, the NRM, the first effort to grow coffee in Northern was made in 1997 in Acholi, your neighbors, not yet here. It started here probably 10, 12 years ago, 2013, 2014. Now when you understand that a coffee tree, a Robusta coffee tree, needs 3 years to actually start giving you something out of your hard work, my question is, why has coffee not been boosted here in Northern? Because the proof is there that coffee grows here. The proof is there that cocoa can grow here. Yes, we can say there is a problem in rain. It's too dry over here. But there's solutions to that. There's plenty of water around here in Lango. There's things which can be done for that. But does somebody have an explanation why those of you who grow coffee have not yet been able to bring it to the level where the government in Kampala expects you to be? What has been the reason?
Okay, I'll talk from the perspective of the Ministry of Agriculture, which is directed under my docket. The coffee, why coffee has not taken off is it has to do with mindset change. The mind of the farmers needs to change drastically if they are to push this crop to the next level. It is a crop which needs passion, needs patience, needs commitment. If you're not willing to put in the commitment, then you may not succeed. And another problem which has also been there has been a very big knowledge gap among stakeholders, farmers, and those who get into the crop itself. Most of them have not yet understood the dynamics. What am I getting into? What am I expected to do? What do I need to do in order to get good returns? And from the government perspective, I think from the beginning, introduced, it should have got what is called a special priority or a project, a special purpose vehicle, which needed special attention. And if that had been done, I think we would be very far by now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a coffee farmer, I have realized a number of issues that has frustrated coffee farmers in Lango sub-region especially not to go full blast into coffee farming. One is a problem of land fragmentation. They come and buy from the farmers illegally and they take it. So farmers, because they're still new in this production, they do not know the market and how much it costs. So that alone has frustrated farmers. Thank you.
We'll be promoting cocoa in Lango than this. But what I've learned on coffee is that the last point he has given is about the market. If the private sector has picked up on coffee as a business, farmers will be motivated and will have somewhere to sell that coffee. Then another challenge is the market issue. You know, people are coming from Kampala that buy coffee within the region as a raw coffee. At least if you had a processing plant like the coffee color, farmers will take that coffee to the factory, it will be hard, then they will sell it at the value that those people in Kampala will sell it. And all people will be motivated to grow coffee. That is a very important point. Lack of private sector involvement in the coffee production.
Distorted our cultural heritage, which are all many things. And when people were going back from camp, they were not prepared to go back and live a meaningful life. They started recovering on their own. So when you drink coffee, which one should wait for 3 years, and you drink soya beans, which someone will wait for about 80 plus days, someone will go in for soya and not coffee, which means a lot of effort, as said by my friend, Bishop Lango. So that has contributed a lot. Government brought effort in causing transformation. Various things were brought here before, but the life people need for many years affected them, and they cannot concentrate in farming long-term.
Thank you. Let me go to you then.
But some people were discouraged last year, including me, when the seedlings were being given. There was some rumors circulating that the seedling being given was a clonal one that cannot last even for 10 years without drying off. So this discouraged people, and yet I was optimistic. After planting coffee would take me over 50 years while harvesting, but the message came, the variety you are being given will not even last for 10 years, will dry off. That therefore entered deeply in our mindset. I don't know how true it is. We need to be guided. Thank you.
And I've been everywhere in Uganda. I know the economic differences. For this case, I want to say Lango did not grow coffee because of 3 things. One, the Lango people were cattle keepers. They kept a lot of cattle. And I think many of them didn't have time for coffee. Tesho Karamojong brought cattle wealth to Uganda. So they depended on that. We were educated using cattle. Cotton was brought around 1913, but progressively, not speedily. Because of land, probably, because cotton needs fresh land throughout. By the time Lango came here, there were about 3.3 million acres of arable land. Today we have about 2.2 million acres in land. So it creates a certain challenge, which somebody was talking about, is of land. Secondly, the British brought agricultural school in Ngeta, 1916. Why did they bring coffee? I see that it was a policy of divide and rule. Give these people theirs and give these ones here, so that we can really see what to do with them. So if they introduced coffee in 1916, coffee would have been grown here. Some Lango people went to Buganda, 1930s, and they started growing coffee in Buganda. And some of them came back with a certain amount of coffee in Lango, which was introduced from Buganda, not by government, but those who went on tour. Lastly, as somebody has said, the war has reduced the Lango to ashes, and some people depended on handout. When the NGOs go to the camp and call them for a meeting and give them money, they could not think about economic empowerment. So if there's anything to be introduced in the Lango now, it needs a lot of training, like somebody has said, mindset. Mindset did not come because people did not want, but because people don't know what to do. Thank you.
In 1916, the British came, right? Coffee was somehow introduced. Let's imagine that today, 110 years later, this is 1916. We're going to build on that. That's very simple, but it requires effort. And we're here to help you to walk down that path. So, with everybody involved here, we of course have great potential. I've set up projects in Burundi, in Rwanda. I've set up projects here in Uganda, and one of them was in fact in Kigezi. And now my question is, I'm not going to ask you, I have the answer, but in actual fact, why do most projects fail? Most of the projects which are being launched, or which have been launched, even since independence, there was a lot of NGOs putting in money, but they come and they go. The idea is not that somebody comes, gives handouts, and goes. So from Plutus, you'll never get a handout. What I say is we have experience. We can bring the coffee to market. We can set up a production unit. We can help with our agronomic team to make your work more resilient and to make sure that you see finally results. Because we also know that whatever coffee is grown here is being bought from you, from traders, from Luero, from Bade, from Kampala. Yeah? And the more middlemen you have between you and the one who's exporting, the less money you are going to get. That's very simple. So one of the objectives which we have is to bring whatever production is going to grow in this area straight to the market. To not eliminate middlemen, because middlemen can be useful if one or the other needs money up front, or, we're also not a bank. And that's why I'm saying we share our knowledge, we share our experience, we share our networks, but only on one condition. And that is if the community shows its interest. If you guys sit back and relax, I'm going to sit back and relax as well. Yeah, I'm not going to sweat on my own. We have to sweat all together. So it requires efforts from the community, and we are willing to accompany you so that we make the effort together. And we're not here to come in and to go out. Because what do you see with all these projects which have been launched by USAID, by all the others? There is a project, funding is there for 2-3 years, okay? And then you have a nice road sign, funded by USAID, funded by the American people, funded by God knows who. And if you go in the countryside today, you've probably noticed most of these road signs, they are rusting because there's no more project behind it. There's no more money behind it, there's no more motivation behind it. And that's not what we want to have. What we want to happen here in Northern. My project in Kigezi, We built a wet processing mill. We started training the farmers. And it's maybe a little bit similar to Lango, we can leave that for later, but in the mountains of Kigezi, you go up Rukunjiri, you go to Kanungu, you go Kisoro, Kabale, there's a lot of villages and a lot of clans, and they hate each other. They have never managed to make them work together. We organized celebrations, trainings, and then you hear that this village doesn't like that village for whatever reason. Yeah. I certainly do hope that in Lango, the 146 clans which you have are not fighting amongst each other, because that is the beginning of the end. You have to stick together, and you have to make projects like this one work. And the projects fail because of jealousy, egoism, and you will always find somebody who falls into a leadership position who figures out that because of the hard work of the base, now he can pocket. One day there was the commissioning of the factory outside of Kampala, and the general was there. And he saw that there was many cooperative representatives there, and he asked them the question. He said, why is it that you cooperative leaders, you meet, you talk, and never anything is happening? So meeting and talking is nice, but you have to go to the next step and get into action. If you don't get into action and sustain the action by your work, by our work, then the project is going to fail as well. And because none of these cooperative members was willing to answer the question of the general, he looks at me and he said, Hans, you know, you tell them. So I told him. I said, because too many leaders have been embezzling funds, have been pulling the leg of all the farmers, and have been, basically, there was a lack of good governance. And you will find it every time. Every time you structure something, there's always the leader who has been to university, who's more clever than the others, and he will pull, the curtain to his side. And he will try to take advantage of all of you. And that leads us to good governance. And we were training Wanyankole Kweterana, who is one of the oldest unions in Uganda. And we said the good governance is not your leaders, it's you, the members. When you hear something, when you see something, when you feel that something is not right within the management structure of your cooperative or your union, you have to stand up and raise your voice. Because a cooperative, a primary society, a union belongs to the members, not to the leaders you have elected. So A, be very careful which leader you elect, and B, follow up on what they're doing. If you smell something is fishy, raise your voice. That is where good governance starts. And that can prevent jealousy, egoism, and all that to set in place. And you need, in fact, cooperation with the base, all between you. You have to be brothers, you have to make it happen. If you don't make it happen, who will? You're sitting here 100 years later, and you say, oh, back in 2026, we had this nice guy talking about setting up a project in northern Uganda. And look at this, we're still left naked in the street, there's nothing happening. Well, that's not my blame. That is just going to be built thanks to you, to the leaders, the church leaders, the political leaders, everybody who's going to motivate the growers, hopefully in the future, the farmers/managers, to produce more and more and more and to improve the livelihood. That is what we're aiming at. And like our Muslim brothers say probably 5 or 10 times a day, inshallah. I used to work in Iran. All the people I worked with were mentioning this word, inshallah, whenever you discussed something. And I said, oh, stop. What we say in our Christian world, we say, help yourself and God will help you. So that's where we start. We're not counting on the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, because they also sit and talk and meet. Extension officers are too little. They're trying to hire 3,500 extension officers, and even that would be too little. What we intend to do is to give you a structure with our agronomists, but also we want use groups to integrate. We want them to start to learn little basics to be plant doctors, to help the farmers on a daily basis resolve their issues. And that's what we have to build on. And please, no inshallah. You only go to church once a week. In the field, you're every day. So we decide about our own future. That is how it's going to work. And then we'll get protection from above and we'll make it happen. That's how it goes. And so if you don't mind, I dive deep into what Plutus is doing and the project which we have for Northern. Just a few words about that. I've been working in all the areas of coffee producing regions here in Uganda. I've seen them all. I've seen everything. I probably know the Ugandan map better than most of you because I travel all over the field. 3 years ago, I started looking at the problem which we have in Uganda within the coffee industry. And it was jumping to my eyes. The problem is Northern Uganda. The government has this dream of making coffee and cocoa become a main cash crop here in Northern Uganda. But they don't have the means to actually boost it the way they would like it. So that's where the private partnership comes into play with the communities. And we have to work together towards that. But that was 3 years ago. I've been developing. Even before coming to Gulu, even before coming to Lira, I knew, by looking at the map, that there was a problem in Northern Uganda. So we started developing, I'll show you in a minute, everything that we thought would have to be around this project in Northern. Then, about a year ago, I moved to a place just outside of Kampala for my residence. And I bumped into the ambassador. He's my neighbor. And we were casually chatting, and we were talking about Northern, and he said, I am from Northern. I'm very interested. And we started talking more and more and more. And because we had to skip the keynote word by the ambassador, because he was slightly delayed coming from Kampala, if you don't mind, I'll let him just address a few words to you before I actually go through the presentation of the project itself. Would you agree, Ambassador? Okay.
Well, let us first give a very big round of applause to my dear brother. He's a great man, and I'm so happy that he's able to come and help us through this journey of improving our productivity in Northern Uganda through agriculture. Uganda basics. Again, my apologies for having arrived late, because last night I had a lengthy meeting with the Right Honourable Speaker to discuss quite a number of things. The meeting stretched up to midnight, and it continued with another group that were together in that meeting to almost 2 o'clock. That's when we eventually went to bed. My thought was to start driving right away, but I had to rest a bit, and we started coming. So this morning, here at my own school that raised me up, Dr. Bore College is across here. I'm a member of the Boro Hill Student Association, and Boro Hill comprises Dr. Bore College, Canon Lawrence, and St. Catherine. And when I was here, I was the president of the students, and I worked very closely with the head teachers of all the 3 schools, including, at that time, Mr. Odomwan, and then Mono was here, Mono Kol, and Beatrice Lagada, Honorable Beatrice Lagada, who is still very active. And she was the mistress of St. Catherine. So, my Lord Bishops who are here, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming. Distinguished reverends from various churches, our Mother Anglican Church, the Catholic Church, the born-again churches, and all our friends from the other religions, including the Muslims. Thank you for coming. I'm also most delighted. Yes, give a big hand clap to our spiritual leaders. I'm also most delighted that we're able to receive response from our dear colleagues in the cultural fraternity. I'm happy to see many of my friends with home here. Let us give a very big hand clap to them. Represented here, I have the Prime Minister of Lango Cultural Foundation, Lady Okodi Machpio. I'm also having a very senior member of our fraternity, who is a very senior Awitong, who will give a very good submission. I must recognize him in a very special way. Our former Inspector General of Police, Mr. Julius Peter Odwe, my very good friend, a custodian of Lango history. Let us give him a big hand clap for what he does for us. I'm happy to have among us, I know, members of the local government from various districts who have come to help us have this program rolled down to the districts. And definitely, the team from Rado Consultancy. The team from Rado, you can also stand up and wave. I know you have been here ahead of me. This is Angela Babazi, and we have Emma, who is taking pictures, and others who are busy doing other things. And most importantly, our friends from Plutus, who are the engine, the very reason we are here today, led by my dear friend, Mr. Hans Jihara. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The Lango opportunity, we are gathered here for a very, very big opportunity for Lango. And it is a defining moment for our sub-region. And you know, as I came hearing from you, for too long, Lango has been viewed through the lens of subsistence. And today we change that narrative. Our theme is repositioning Lango as a hub for high-valued coffee and cocoa value chain. That's the theme of this meeting. And it's not just a slogan that we are trying to wave. It is a roadmap for the socio-economic transformation of our peoples. The Rado perspective, why Rado joins in this. Harmony as a fertilizer. My friend Hans was talking about conflict, that he has noticed conflict in Western Uganda. My brother, this is not an island of peace. We have also walked through conflict of various nature and going to experience conflict within ourselves. Now, as Rado Conciliation and Consultancy, our presence here is rooted in the fundamental truth. Economic prosperity cannot survive without social stability. Perennial crops like coffee and cocoa are generational wealth and are generational crops. They remain in the ground for decades. Now, for these crops to thrive, we must ensure that we have land security, trust in our partnership, and community ownership. We must resolve land disputes through conciliation and not litigation. As many of you know that I'm a lawyer, but I'm this lawyer who doesn't pride in winning cases in court. My rejoicing comes when parties reconcile. And in our communities, we can only be able to resolve land disputes through negotiated settlement, through amicable agreement. Because these land disputes are always among neighbors, they're always among families. And if we cannot commit ourselves to resolving them, these crops that we are embarking on will not help our people. They will cause fights, they will cause death, and there will be no productivity. So as Rado, we are committed to ensuring that we focus on peaceful resolutions and harmonious living among our peoples. And that's the reason why here I must again emphasize that having the presence of my brothers from non-cultural institutions give me great joy and pride. Let us clap for ourselves. And having alongside my colleagues from Lango Cultural Foundation gives me great joy and pride. Let us work together. As you know, I am a bridge for the peace that we are trying to experience in Lango today, in our cultural body. And I'm committed that this peace must not only be spoken, but be experienced in a reality for our region to stabilize. The future of Lango will only be realized if we choose to work together as a people and minimize the little things that divide us so that we can move together. The public-private sector that will develop a partnership with Plutus Coffee must be built on a foundation of trust, transparency, and mutual respect. I'm happy that my brother Hans has said he's not here like those other donors. He's here as a partner for development, as a partner to work with us so that we make money as he also makes money, so that we can bring development for our community and for our nation. This is not just where we're going to sit and look at each other and say he's going to give us everything, but we have to play our role. But we have to be trusted with whatever resources comes to our hands, either through our own labor or through gifts or donations that comes from our other partners. When you're given seedlings, for instance, and you take them and you don't put them on the ground, you waste your time. You think you're deceiving the person who gives you, but you're deceiving yourself and you're betraying your heritage, you're betraying your posterity. I am happy to have and introduce my Minister of Production from Palachon clan, who is here as a very technical person. Dr. Joseph is here. He has so many seedlings that he can give us in addition to what we're going to get. But being here, definitely we're going to agree on what kind of coffee, what kind of species we want for either coffee or cocoa. Our clan and religious leaders are the custodians of our social fabric. Without your social fabric and without your mobilization, even the best technical plan will fail. If we leave this place without utilizing our role as leaders from the cultural arena and from the religious arena, we are going to struggle. But you are the custodian of our social mobilization, our church, and our clan structures. You can take back the message to our people, and when it comes from you, they are going to embrace it, they are going to apportion their land to this project. Allow me to talk about action plan from soil, from policy to soil. This is what he has been talking about. We are not here to merely produce another report. Many workshops have been held. And you know, as some of you have been in Lango Cultural Foundation for many years, in the early 2000s I've been teaching about conflict resolutions, land reforms, domestic conflict resolution and all that. But some of them have remained as policy papers, you know, as policy reports. But here, today, is a different thing. We're not here to sit here and listen to Hans and all the technical people are going to talk to us, and you go back to make report to your church leadership, to your clan leadership, to your district leadership, and say they attended a workshop. We have been used to attending workshops, get allowances, and we go back and even forget about the file. But we are here to go back and put to action what we are learning from here. So to ensure every district in Lango speaks with one voice, should be our commitment. We must have a roll-down committee to move the agenda from boardrooms, from this meeting to our villages. At the end of this meeting, we are looking forward to now going back to district, from district to district. And we want to see the program that we are initiating here today is rolled down to every district, is rolled down to every archdiocese, is rolled down to every church unit, is rolled down to every clan. Every road, every jago must have this message in his fingertips and speak it to his people. Because this is the only way that we can turn around the social and economic life of our people, and our people will live a decent life for a long time. Now, a committee of peace and our commitment to ensure that as wealth enters our households through coffee and cocoa, it brings unity rather than division. This should be our community. That as we move down this project to our community, we are not again introducing new conflict, but we are bringing in peace to our people by telling them we have opportunity to change our household income. And we're not going to bring about a fight that this land was always used for Simpson, but now we're going to use it for coffee. And the woman said, no, I don't want it. The man said, I need it. And later on, we are hitting each other with a weapon. And then tomorrow you're in police. Just because you have failed to sit down and agree on how to apportion land for this project. So we want whatever is going to come out of this may not be another doorway of conflict. As I conclude, the journey of Uganda's transformation that we have seen and that I have documented in my book, Uganda since 1986, as soon as that peace is the precursor to development. So today we plant the seeds of a new Lango, one that is not just a participant in the global market, but a leader in the global economy. Let us work together with the precision of a lawyer and the heart of a peacemaker to ensure that Boroboro here becomes the birthplace of this high-value resolution for growing coffee and other perennial crops for our posterity. I say all this for God and my country.
We have suffered a few delays. I'm into agriculture. I know that if the tea infuses for 2 years.
And when they come, one, they're going to get enough quantity. I always talk about the 2 Qs in my economic diplomacy. For all our products to find good markets and good price, we need to have enough quantity. And 2, the quality. So when we talk about quality today, we are talking about organic and improved brand. So are we going for organic or we are going for which kind of production? So we need to agree from now, and we need to be open to ask our technical facilitator the right questions when we are here. And as I was saying, you just need to apportion yourselves 2 acres of land. I went to Bugishu in my journey as a cultural leader, and I was talking to the king of Bugishu some years back. He's no longer there, unfortunately passed away. And I was talking about what are the qualifications for one to become a clan leader in Bugishu. And I'm saying this because I have a number of clan leaders here. A number of you we talk are here. And as your colleague, I was trying to see how we can perfect ourselves. He gave me, we have only 3 qualifications. The most important one. 1, you must be circumcised. 2, you must be married. 3, you must have a minimum of 3 acres of coffee. Meaning you are able to sustain yourself. You're not dependent on others, but also you're a good example. You're a hard-working person. So today you're going back. What qualifies you to be a leader now as a leader? You need to be productive. Apart from the cultural qualifications that he told me, we also have our cultural qualifications. We need to add hard work. Not only about the cultural leaders, including the religious leaders. What example are you giving to your flock? Bishop Joseph Omara is here. He's a great entrepreneur. He's a farmer. He's a social engineer who does a lot of social impact work, including drinking water for the community. Let us give him a big hand for that. Through him, if you want irrigation for your farms, we can ensure you have water there, and we generate how we can make sure you get pump water around your farm, so that your coffee can grow in all seasons. So we have our bishop here, who actually is not with us here, but he's out for election. Bishop Professor Dr. Alfred Roy, who is the initiator of the program we are running here today. Let us give him a hand of applause in his absence. When I talked to him, he told me, I will not be around, but I'll give you an action to work with you. And he said, anything within the diocese of Lango and West Lango, he will help you coordinate. And he's committed to see that this program take off. Because he himself is a farmer. I went to his farm in Aromo. Who has been to that farm? Give him a big hand of applause. He knows because he's a government bishop. He's the one trying to see that farm succeeds. It's about more than 10 acres of coffee. Coffee. And he has planted lots of trees at Ichubana, the bishop. I was telling the bishops, the reverends during lunch break, said, why can't you, in your home area, come up with 2 acres of coffee? So that at your retirement, you're going to find it already producing. And you'll be very settled. Where you are being sent at your parishes, there you only plant seasonal crops because you're living there for a season. When time of going back comes, you have something growing at home, which will grow for ages. So welcome back from the break, and I want to thank you for being here. Let us commit ourselves to being here. There's a way we have suggested the structure of our meeting, a break off for discussion later. But for now, let us carry on from where we stop and let the president of Plutus continue to pump knowledge to our heads. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Those who are sitting at the back, can you read what is on there? More or less. Well, in any case, this is just a quick description of who Plutus is. So, Plutus is the Greek god in mythology of wealth. He's the son of Demeter. And Demeter is the goddess of the harvest. So that brings us to that name Plutus. That's why we selected it. Demeter is already known in the agriculture. It's used and reused, so we thought let's honor the son of the Greek mythology and call the company Plutus because it is the god of wealth, and that's what we're aiming at. So what our company does, I mentioned before there's 20 of us. So we have all the in-house knowledge and experience who is on the payroll. We're not one of those consultancy companies who set up a team once they have secured funding. We're paying every month to have that in-house knowledge and that those teams can actually interact on a daily basis because we think it's much more productive than to hire in a third-party consultant. We do everything in-house, we know everything in-house, at least we hope to think so. So that's what we do, and by and large it is farmer extension services. So what we have listed here is just a few. Certification, once there is an organization which is really up and running, There is these organizations called Fair Trade, Rainforest, Organic Coffee, which the ambassador mentioned just before. We have built wet processing mills, we have built dry mills, and later on you can have a look at the model here. That's our vision of what we need to put up in Lira, in the industrial park.
On why we're talking coffee here. Between 2022 to around 23, I worked as a consultant for Ministry of Agriculture program called Agriculture Value Chain, and that helped us to understand the context of the different crops that we grow in this country, but also in our region. And if today we are here to talk about coffee, and we are in Lango sub-region, it is important for us to understand why are we talking about coffee. And here, I want us to perceive in the context of the income, the monetary value. I wanted us to look at some of the figures. As I worked as a consultant in Midwestern Uganda, we were stirring the minds of the farmers to realize that it is not just about everyday farming when you're not realizing the outcome in terms of value for money, in terms of the income, in terms of livelihood. And also we're looking at what are the reasons that rise prices of commodities. And just to make you understand some of these things, there are things that you will look at and it will surprise you. We are aware that the Lango sub-region as a cash crop, that is actually not supposed to be a cash crop. We are talking about maize here. So when we looked at different prices, we were able to realize that maize, 100 kilograms of maize goes for 90,000 shillings. And this was, we're looking at prices from between 2001 to 2003. If any of you is here, you will understand that at farm gate, a kilogram of maize is about 900 shillings. Sometimes starts from 700, but we're looking at 900. So if you have 100 kilograms of maize, you can fetch 90,000 shillings. Now, if you have the same kilogram of coffee, 100 kilogram coffee, at the bare minimum, you will get 900,000 shillings, the lowest you can get. But the same 100 kilogram of vanilla, you are talking about 1.8 million shillings. And then the same 100 kilogram of cocoa, you are talking of a minimum of 2.6 million. The same 100 kilogram of marijuana, you are talking of 8.5 million shillings. So what are you growing? That's now a great teaser. What are you growing? And what are you expecting? So are you going to continue to grow a commodity where 100 kilogram gives you 90,000 shillings? Or are you shifting to a commodity where 100 kilogram gives you 900,000? Or you go to a commodity that gives you 1.8 million or 2.6 or the 8.5 million? Now, the bigger question is, why do other commodities give you more money than others? Hans has just been mentioning about the dream and vision for Uganda to produce 20 million bags of coffee. Now, if you're producing 20 million bags of coffee, you need to look for where it can be going, the consumption. I want to stir your mind to realize that whereas we are producing maize and getting 90,000 shillings per 100 kilogram, is because we are consuming it locally and we're not exporting it. If we are exporting, we're exporting to Kenya and maybe the neighboring countries. And that means you are not earning foreign exchange out of it. For a commodity to attract big price, that means that commodity needs to be exported and you attract foreign exchange. We are talking about dollar here. Every kilogram of coffee, every coffee that is going out is being produced, is being bought in dollars. And for our sub-region, our sub-region, to get out of the vicious cycle of poverty, we need to change a few things. One, we need to look at what are we producing? And what we are producing, where is it marketed? How many people are consuming what we are producing? And now, if you produce what fetches low value, and yet you are consuming what requires more money, then where is the future now? We take sugar every day. We just had breakfast. So for you to continue to consume, if you are to buy 100 kilograms of sugar, how many kilograms of maize do you need to buy 100 kilograms of sugar? Currently, even the price of meat has gone to 18,000. Are we going to continue eating meat with producing maize, which gives us 90,000? So, the issue of the value chain around coffee is what should start our mind. Is what should preoccupy our thoughts on how we will change it. And it's not about other people coming to tell us. It's about us beginning to change our mind to do that. Because for a long time, this has continued. And I know it is possible. For me, as a consultant, I worked in Midwestern Uganda for 2 years. And my responsibility number one was to make maize a commodity that can be marketed internationally. And the subsequent year, maize became the second leading export earner in Uganda after coffee. So what does that tell us? That when you put effort, it is possible. And actually, I can tell you, for some of you realize that around 2023, the price of maize went up to 1,800. The reason was there was production increase in Midwestern Uganda, there was quality improvement, there were partners involved, and there was export. And once it is exported, then you get foreign exchange. When your product is being bought in dollars, the price locally increases automatically. So what do we do as a sub-region? Take advantage of the kind of partnership that Plutus and Lango is bringing us in-house. And we can begin to exploit it. We can begin to build a value chain around it. And then the systems are already in place for us to cultivate it. We have the church. We have the cultural institution. We have community. We have the cooperatives. There are so many redundant cooperative societies in Lango region. This is the time to take advantage. This is the time to cultivate it and utilize it to bring the much needed development that we've talked about for a very long time. Ambassador has mentioned about periods of conflict in the region. It is time to rewrite the future and begin to work together on things that matter most to us. Things that talk about income, that brings money to our pockets. When we were chatting outside, we were talking about how this place has been transformed into a university and people are here. Are we going to continue to send children to school if we are producing crops that don't bring us money? And yet we have the opportunity. I am a victim of coffee plantation that never yielded. I got over 4,000 stems of coffee in 2019, and it all dried because I got the coffee just because coffee season was just being distributed for free. And because it was distributed for free, it did not bother me to invest the necessary energy to plant it in my way. But if we have a partner who is willing to go through us the extra journey of the proper economy, the systems in place, the network in place, the partnership, as a sub-region, we need to take that opportunity seriously. And it's time for the church to lead the way. I was chatting briefly with Reverend Charles, and we were talking about how is the Bible related to the coffee here. And I was telling him, the best thing for the Bible is when the person being spoken to has something in the pocket. It's very difficult to shepherd a poor church. But if the church has got money, it is interesting. When you want to go for mission, the pastor is just invited to receive money. The pastor doesn't need to ask people to contribute money. In places where people have money, churches have accounts where people have money transfers into their account. And that is what we want. We want cultural leaders who are well empowered. When you're going to the communities, people don't worry about how you care of. Just like also mean when you're traveling, your flock can slaughter your goat without worry, because they are empowered. So I want to call upon us to take advantage of the opportunity available to us and know for sure that if we continue the same way, we will not get different results. For us to get a different result, we must change the narrative. And the narrative must change from today. I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Eddie. We appreciate you. That has been really tickling, as you say. Good brain tickling session.
Agronomist and our resident agronomist here, Vicky, sitting in the back, that we structure use groups with basic knowledge where they can assist the farmers in answering their questions. We're also working on setting in place a platform on our website, on smartphones for those who have smartphones, but even on USSD for those who have the more simpler phones, where there will be these segments of information. You can go on agriculture, you can go to pests and diseases. If there is I have this problem, you can upload a picture. It will tell you what disease it is. If it's not enough, you can talk to one of the agronomists. And also, most of the questions are automatically generated. If you click on one of them, you automatically get an answer. And if it is not good enough, you leave a question, and later on, when our agronomists have the time, they can give you a response on that. We do soil analysis because nothing grows if your soil is not healthy. And let me straight away remove this myth whereby Uganda is the most fertile land in Africa. It is fertile, but most of the soils are depleted. We have soil scanners. We can do analysis now and then. In 3 minutes, we have a full report of what is lacking in your soil or what is too much. We make those analyses. Based on that, we suggest an agri-input calendar where we say, well, your soil is lacking A, B, C, D, and now we propose over the full year to put this program in place. We explain when the things needs to be applied, how much needs to be applied. That is what we call the agri-input calendar. And we know that most of the time, a farmer cannot afford to buy all the fertilizers which he will need. But we have set in place collaborations with banks, whereby we suggest to them a given farmer organization, and we say, this is the analysis, this is what they need, that is going to cost so much per tree for the whole year. And we ask the banks to negotiate with the farmer organizations for a loan. And this is where community is so important, because the loan will be given to a cooperative, a primary society, a union, but based on their own merit. So if the bank believes that that cooperative is well run, is well managed, they will extend the loan enough to cover for all the members this entire agri-input wildly. And it's not so important. What we want to do basically is that if today we produced 100 kilos, that after we start working together, the next season we produce 200 kilos. That is what is key. Not so much the figures which are being thrown out here. Everybody has heard the president launch this idea of Uganda exporting 20 million bags. Today everybody says 2030. But I've been here long enough to know that it was launched already in 2017 with Operation Wellspray for 2020. At that time we were at 5.8 million bags. So there was no way that was going to happen in 2 or 3 years. So when we approached 2019, the deadline was pushed to 2025. And then in 2024, it was not going to happen, pushed to 2030. And mark my words, we're going to push it to 2035. And we here in Northern, we're going to contribute to achieving that target of 20 million bags. Because we have the capacity. We can, if we all work together, we can really start producing a lot of coffee, which is going to assist the government in achieving their target of 20 million bags. And whilst we're doing that, it also improves the livelihoods of those who are working towards that goal. So the figures are not that important, but we want to register at least 8,000 farms in the 5 districts here. The infrastructure is key. It is basically working on your soils, working on improved yield, working on all your systems so that you have the least possible pests and diseases. But now comes the whole issue of bringing to market. You produce your coffee, somebody mentioned it before, you are the victims of the local traders who come from Kampala, who come from Luero, who come from Bali, I've heard some come. There's 10,000 middlemen in Uganda. Each one of them has to make a living. He's not working on it. He's buying coffee from the farmers and he's selling it to the next one, who's paying him hopefully a little bit more, and he makes his money like that. All he has to do is go and collect the coffee from you. If you take those 10,000 collectively, you can imagine how many billions of shillings are flowing into their pockets, which should be flowing into the pockets of the growers. And that's what our Northern Project is about, is to bring to market. So we should have, after 5 years in this whole project, and thanks to the thing we want to build here, we should be able to bring your coffee straight to market. And for that you need volumes, like Ambassador Dixon was saying. You need some volume. You have to fill up the containers to justify the central processing unit, as you can observe over here later on. We need to be completely sustainable ourselves here in Northern. That means, yes, part of you grow, others make sure through the cooperatives that it comes to the central processing unit. We export grade here in Lima, and we fill the container straight away here in Lima. Not to go to Kampala, to another middleman or another exporter. No, we want to export directly ourselves. And I have a company also, which I passed on to my son, which is doing brokerage. Brokerage is putting the seller and the buyer together. He is doing 80 to 100 containers every month. That's 1,600 to 2,000 metric tons every month, which he is brokering for exporters in Kampala. So now if he cannot sell your coffee, then I don't know who could. We have to take advantage of that structure, those contacts, that coffee produced here, processed here, goes straight to the consuming market. So there's a lot of untapped potential here, and you know it. Ambassador was mentioning everybody needs to put 3 acres at disposal. Think about the people living in Mount Elgon or in Renzores or in Kidesi. They don't have that land. There is land available here. You have land, but you have probably no thought of putting coffee on it or putting cocoa on it. That is the untapped potential which we have here. And the coffee, even though it was introduced in 2013, 2014, you have not received the support. You have, in actual fact, been pushed to engage into something, and then the expected support was not there. You've been left on your own, not because that was structured like that. It's just because it requires so many resources. And that's why I say don't sit and wait till the government does something for you. Do it yourself. Work towards it, because it is possible. And that's where we're going to play the public-private partnership. You do your bit, we do our bit. And together, we'll bring this coffee straight to market, bringing better prices, of course. So the productivity here is low. The farmer organization is going to start moving out to sensitize the farmers and make sure that they give it a thought. Shall we structure it as cooperative? You have the clans. Why not make a cooperative around the clan? All these cooperatives will then be regrouped under a union, and like this you become really strong and powerful, also for the market presentation. You have no other choice but to rely on the middleman. We want to skip that. We want to make sure that in the next 5 years we can handle everything in-house. And when I say in-house, it's not Plutus, it's us. We need processing facilities. We need to be able to export grade the kiboko, to hull the kiboko,